Howdy, neighbor. Hey everyone, Josh here. You may have heard the phrase Good Samaritan and not know exactly where it comes from. Well, briefly, Samaria was a place that was next to Israel, and Samaritans were literally the neighbors of Jewish people, and historically they did not get along very well. And so that phrase actually comes from a story that Jesus tells. Essentially, there's a man walking down the road and he gets beat up by two robbers and left for dead. A man from the community shows up and is supposed to help this guy out, and you would think that he would be the one to take care of him, but he passes him on and keeps going. Second man comes in the story, does the same thing. And then a third guy shows up, and this guy is a Samaritan. And so you wouldn't think that a Samaritan would help a Jew, but instead, where the story goes, is the Samaritan ends up taking care of this Jewish man and making sure that he's safe and that he's okay and that he gets the help that he needs. And Jesus ends this story by asking a really poignant question, saying, who of these three men was the neighbor? This begs a beautiful question for us. Who is our neighbor? You see, oftentimes we think of our neighbor as somebody who's in close proximity to us. Or if we interact with people on social media, it tends to be people that we agree with, people who think like we do. We tend to share things that we like, and we spend little to no time interacting with the other. And if we do, it's usually confrontative and negative. And if you've ever seen any type of negative Facebook post going back and forth over politics, you know exactly what I'm talking about. See, the funny thing is Jesus actually invites us to expand our definition of the word neighbor. Elsewhere, he says that we're supposed to love our enemy and pray for those who persecute us. And what's interesting about this idea of enemy is usually enemies are people who want to slight you. So you might actually have a good reason for being angry or bitter towards that person. But that still doesn't override the fact that Jesus says those individuals are still worthy of love, no matter how uncomfortable it may make you feel. I gotta ask, if you are somebody who has bitterness or malice in your heart for the other, people who are different than you, people who think differently from you, maybe people who vote differently from you, are you really loving the other? It's got to be pretty hard to have love for them and to love people like Jesus says they're actually worthy of love if you harbor that constant bitterness toward them. So here's the challenge. If you're somebody who says you follow Christ, I would encourage you to look into your own heart, particularly this week, and see if that there's any bitterness that you need to have cleaned out by the Lord. Follow me on Instagram if you want to talk more. I'm at Joshua_Carman. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much and have a good week.